Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Black with No Chaser. I am your host, TK, and joining me tonight is the usual suspects, the Melanated Mental Health Awareness Podcast team. And we're here tonight to talk about holidays. We have a week until Thanksgiving gets here, and Christmas is right around the corner, and people are dealing with a lot, without dealing with the holidays, with COVID and school and work and lack of work and everything. And now we have the holidays here to add to that stress. So tonight we're going to talk about some of the things that people are dealing with and ways to adapt and cope with what's going on. Before we do that, just let me say, this is in no way, shape, form, or fashion a diagnosis of anything or anybody. And this is for informational purposes only and for us not to get sued. So that being said, I'm gonna step back and let the panel introduce themselves and we can get right into it.
All right, so I am Adrienne Marshall once again, licensed marriage and family therapist associate here in the state of Georgia, working currently for your local nonprofit, Chris 180, as well as private practice, Thrive Works of McDonough.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jenkins, and I am the owner of Release and Restore Health, Wellness, and Life Coaching and Consulting Firm, and I'm located here in Mississippi. And we just want to be able to provide you guys with a little bit of information as the holiday season gets started.
Hi, everybody. I am Afia K. I am a licensed psychotherapist in the state of Alabama at the Sunshine's Haven Counseling Center.
Hello, everybody. I am Deshara Dobb. I'm out of Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm a mental health provider and also the founder and CEO of Vision of Promise, LLC.
You're muted, Cyrus.
Oh, and last and certainly not least, we got Jared Washington joining us as well. Jared, you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah. Again, my name is Jared Washington. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm the CEO and founder of HOPE. It stands for Healing Outreach, Purpose, and Empowerment. And that's just a little bit about me. Oh, I'm also based out of Atlanta, Georgia as well. So.
All right. So like I stated at the beginning, we're just going to get right into it. Each one of these professionals have a certain aspect they want to talk about. And we're just going to throw it out there, discuss a few points, and just give as much information and pointers as we can to everybody who's dealing with whatever they're dealing with right now. So with that being said, I'm gonna start with you, Adrian. I'm gonna go in alphabetical order. That makes it a lot easier to keep up with. So I'm gonna start with you, Adrian, and let you kick it off.
All right. So again, tonight we're talking about the holidays. There's a lot going on in 2020. And, no matter what's going on, though, every year the holidays brings along very high expectations. There are many different things that we deal with all year, but it sometimes seems to culminate at the end of the year when we put a lot of these pressures on ourselves to, get together with family or buy gifts or prepare big dinners. And all of these sorts of things, just being participatory with all of our friends and family. So I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about loneliness during the holiday season and maximizing your support system. Mm-hmm. So there are a few little pointers I kind of want to give when it comes to that relates to both of those issues. Number one, which I think is the biggest thing, is maybe reevaluating our expectations. There's no rule book that says that we have to do the holidays one standard way. It's okay to develop your own traditions. One of the things that I love that had sort of become trendy, especially around Thanksgiving, was Friendsgiving. You know, when you're not close to a lot of family, is getting with close family, friends and maybe their families, or just having a dinner with friends and getting together and fellowshipping. You know, of course, with the pandemic, the CDC is advising us not to do that. So even though it's a little bit cliche and corny, we still kind of want to utilize some of the resources that we do have available. You know, our Zoom meetings, our FaceTiming, maybe preparing our own dinners, you know, taking pictures of those dishes and sharing them with one another. That's a time when our technology and our social media, in that case, can really come in handy for us. The other thing is be good to yourself. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying during this point in time, you know, you have the permission to really be extra good to yourself during this time period, right? So no matter what that is, you know, treating yourself to something, anything that you can safely do to pamper yourself, right? You know, your favorite treat, you know, a favorite drink that you like to have, whatever it is, treating yourself to make you feel good, kind of get those dopamine levels going, right? Also getting connected, you know, go through that list on your phone. Maybe there's somebody that you haven't spoken to in a while that you can connect with, right? Of course, you want to steer clear from any past toxic relationships. So we don't want to go there. But, you know, maybe there is an aunt or a cousin or a friend that maybe you haven't talked to in a month or two. You know, don't be afraid to try to get connected with people, and just to kind of veer out of that realm of loneliness during this time. Also being grateful. You know, I know it doesn't sound like, you know, it would be a big thing or that it would maybe help in some instances, but it really goes a long way when you're able to just kind of stop and just really be thankful for the things that you already have. You know, being able to survive COVID with so many sicknesses and deaths, I think is basically a really, you know, big gratitude. If you still have your job, you know, you have friends and family that you can talk to, those are things that you can definitely be grateful for. And lastly, understand that, you know, you're not alone, that, you know, everybody's kind of dealing with something this holiday season. And, you know, we can really connect out of our similarities more so than our differences. And, you know, let's give and receive on both ends. So the same way that you call, you know, you have that friend that you vent to, you know, also be a listening ear for someone else. So those are kind of all my tips for kind of putting off the loneliness that kind of sometimes wants to creep in, while also maximizing that support system this holiday season.
So, you know, we all know the song we listen to every Christmas, What Do the Lonely Do at Christmas? Well, she just told y'all, you know, what you can do to help get you through these times. Anybody want to piggyback off what she said, or you think she covered it pretty well?
I think she did an excellent job. I think that with the loneliness, I think people need to give themselves the space to be lonely. This has been a really hard year. And, you know, losing loved ones is a difficult thing. And there are going to be families who've lost multiple loved ones during this time. So I think that, you know, allowing this to be a time of celebration of those lives is another opportunity to combat the loneliness that is going to inevitably happen. So I think trying to transform this into a celebratory time is also another way to combat those feelings of loneliness and depression.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think Deshara wanted to ask something to her. You muted though. Okay. All right. So since we, you know, Adrian brought up some very valid points, actually some very good ideas that people, you know, can follow to help during this time. And, you know, we just going to keep the ball rolling. I'm going to slide on over to Fia and let her take the floor.
So I didn't piggyback off of Adrienne because I'm piggybacking with my topic. So she did a great job explaining what to do when you're lonely. And so I'm just going to build up on that and talk about the stress and emotional fluctuations that we experience during the holidays. And some of those are more than likely exacerbated because of COVID. And so we have normal stressors in life. We have normal things that cause us to have like a depressed mood or sadness or hopelessness. On top of that, with holidays coming, it makes us think about loss and grieving that we have to process through. It's exacerbated, like Dr. Jenkins said, because so many of us have lost people during COVID, due to COVID. And then you have regular stressors, financial strain, people trying to pay their bills and take care of additional holiday needs like toys and gifts and food for family. Even if you are keeping it with your immediate family, you still have to eat, and you might want to, you know, do something grand just for your immediate family. So I kind of want to give some pointers and some tips on how to manage that stress, that anxiety, depressed mood, not only just for holidays, but with COVID now, because we have holidays. So the first thing I would suggest is to acknowledge your feelings. So often we're used to coping. And so coping is a great thing. Coping is helpful because it helps us feel better in the moment. It helps us get through work or whatever we're processing and things that we have to do. But coping is not a treatment. And so sometimes it can turn into suppression. And so we are just like, you know, I'll get over it. I'm not going to worry about my sadness. Everything's great. I'm okay. And that's fine to get through work and to get through the day. But at some point we have to sit at home or sit with our therapist or vent with friends. And we have to acknowledge that we are feeling hopeless, that we're lonely, that we're sad, that we are completely stressed out because of life and COVID and all of the things that are happening in our world today. And so acknowledging your feelings doesn't mean that you have to complain or that you're ungrateful. It's just, I am sad today. I know that I won't be like this always, but right now I'm sad and I'm going to sit in this sadness. And sometimes sitting in that sadness looks like processing through it. And so processing is asking yourself where the root cause of the sadness might be coming from. You want to combat some of those cognitive distortions, which is, you know, are those feelings realistic? Is this something that I'm kind of making up in my head because I'm feeling so down, or is this something that I'm really dealing with? And then you can process by saying, well, what can I change or what can I not change about what's happening? So we can't change the fact that COVID is here. We can't change the fact that we might not be able to be around family and friends. But there are some things that we can change. And so we can reframe our thought process. I'm going to sit in this sadness. I'm going to, deal with my loneliness, my hopelessness, the stress. But I can also be grateful that I'm here, and hopefully I have a roof over my head, and I do have some food to eat. I have friends that I can call on the phone, or family that I can do FaceTime with, even though that I can't see them in person. So that's the first pointer as far as acknowledging your feelings and trying to process through it. The second thing is to kind of create a plan. So it's not easy to deal with the holidays in general, but with COVID, it makes it a little more difficult. And so we want to plan ahead as to what our holidays are going to look like. It's going to be different for most of us this year. So family might not be coming in. You might be by yourself. You might just be with your immediate family. And so if those are special times for you, if that's a special holiday, then you want to plan what that day is going to look like. And so that helps you with your expectations. You're not going to be as disappointed because you're looking forward to the plan that you've created ahead of time, instead of just kind of going with the flow and things not working out the way in which you wish that they could have worked out. The third thing is that I'm going to suggest is to go outside. Just because we're social distancing, just because we're not able to be around family and friends, doesn't mean that we have to be cooped up inside of the house, ruminating over the stressors of our life and the things that we're concerned about and those emotional fluctuations. So get outside, get some vitamin D, stand on your porch, go in the backyard, throw the ball with your kids. If you have kids, do things of that sort, and reach out to those family members and those friends. So part of acknowledging feelings is sometimes sitting in those feelings too long without us going forward and processing. And so you don't have to sit there and be down on yourself or talk negatively. You can reach out to family members, do those healthy coping habits that you have, call and check on them, or FaceTime and send messages so that you can deal with some of those stressors. And honestly, I will end it with saying, just roll with the resistance. Something new is going to happen. Something is going to occur that you're not accustomed to. COVID is here. We have new traditions that we have to implement. And if you lower those expectations and stay in a place of gratitude, you're going to roll through some of those things that happen unexpectedly while you're dealing with all of the stressors that you have.
So, I listened to everything you said, and it kind of made me and I kind of wish I would have had like a money manager, somebody who could have joined us to kind of echo on some of the points that you were making, especially about buying gifts and all of that. And I'm no expert or anything like that, but I just wanted to add to it, do what you can, people. Like, everybody understands like what's going on right now, and you can't beat yourself up over everything. You can only do so much. You can only change whatever's in your power, in your wheelhouse to change, and just take it for what it is, and just build on it, and look forward to next year, because it will get better. So please don't beat yourself up.
Sorry, to add to that, because that's a great point. I'll say that for children, it's memories more so than toys. It's the adults that are so concerned about being extravagant and buying all of this great stuff for our loved ones. But what really matters are the memories. So I agree with you. And that's part of the planning too. So you can create additional memories. Maybe if you guys, do some hand painting or have family game night just with your immediate family. And so that's it's a really great point, Tyrus. So making memories is a part of that planning that I think would be helpful for all of us, because that's what we'll look back on. We're not looking back on the dollhouse that was purchased and we broke and we don't have any money. We're looking back on the Uno cards that's being slammed down on the car because, I beat my daddy or something like that.
Oh yeah, especially Uno, because my kids thoroughly enjoy whipping me. They enjoy it. I mean, I let them, I guess, but it's
those babies are beating you for real. Stop it.
I mean, I let them win because I don't want to be a bully, so I do let them win. But we gonna keep everything moving, and I'm gonna slide over to Dr. Calibri and let her do her thing.
Well, we're doing a really good job of introing each other's topics, because today I want to talk about the financial stress of the holidays during COVID and how to deal with the guilt that a lot of people are going to feel because this time is indeed different. And what everybody has just recently said is right on target. I think the number one thing that we have to remember is 2020 has been a year for the books. Nothing about it is normal. So you shouldn't expect a normal holiday season. And lowering your expectations, not necessarily lowering, but changing your expectations to something that is more realistic is what is going to help you be able to propel through the season and enjoy it, instead of being bogged down with negative feelings of letting your children down or your family down. So the number one thing that I want to say, that I think that we have continually talked about during the pandemic when it comes to children, is that they are resilient. Children are resilient. If we have said nothing else during this time, it is talk to your children. And if you have been talking to them, they understand that life is different. They understand that things are not the way they've been being. They understand they're not in school, or they're in school every other day. They understand that they're not being able to, have sleepovers or proms or whatever the case may be. They've seen the changes and they've adapted to the changes. So I think the number one thing that I would impress upon you as the holiday seasons are approaching is to have a serious conversation with your family. Let them know that, this is the best time to reiterate what the holiday season is really about, helping them to understand that everyone is here. We are grateful that we've made it through the year. These are the types of things we're going to do this year for Christmas, or these are the types of things that we're going to do for Thanksgiving. When it comes to younger people who may be under 10, who you still need to do those things for, I think the suggestions that we've talked about are very important. It's important to emphasize family togetherness. So buying games that the family can engage in, doing things for the holiday season that are going to create memories, instead of, I got this nice toy that you probably threw behind your bed by February and haven't thought about it again. So I think it's important that we really spend the time talking to our young people, helping them to understand what the season really is about. This is a great time for them to be able to do some things for some other people, whether that is other people in the family or the community. Building those kinds of bonds with the family and doing things for other folks is a great way to kind of dispel or dismiss some of the anxiety related to, I can't afford to do the things that are normal. So if you totally turn the holiday season on its head, then your children and other family members aren't going to be expecting the same thing. I think that it is important that we realize as well that this is a time where a lot of people, we've talked about grief, but grief can really, really get in the way sometimes. And I think that it's important for people who are survivors, because we haven't really talked about as much, but there are families where there are 6 people in a family and 4 of them have passed away. There will be some survivor guilt in that. There will be some people who will not be able to reconcile the fact that they have made it while other family members didn't make it. There will be people who hosted events that were family super spreaders and people died, and they will have a lot of guilt associated with that as well. I think sitting in those emotions and acknowledging it is very important, and then figuring out what your path out of that is. You have been left here for a reason. There were things that you need to accomplish, and those are the types of things that you need to figure out. What is it? What is your purpose now? Is it for you to be the person who is spreading to your friends how real and serious this situation is and how to combat it? There are always positive steps that you can take, but I think it's important that when you are in these situations where you're feeling guilty, or you're feeling, you're feeling remorse about some decisions that you've made, that you sit in it, you acknowledge it, and then you figure out your path forward, as has been said so many times before. So reimagine what the holidays are going to look like. Get your family members and your children involved in flipping the holiday season on its head, so it's not the same level of stress. And then if you're having these, really negative emotions, sit in it and figure out what your plan out of it is going to be.
So I, as I was sitting here listening, to the things you were saying, and I started kind of like replaying like stuff from my childhood, and started kind of thinking about what Afia was saying too. And like, I watched my mama just, work herself to death to be able to get stuff for me and my sister and my brother. And, looking back on it, I didn't appreciate it then like I should have, because hell, by New Year's, I didn't know what half the shit was, But the one thing that does stick out in my mind is like she said, like, baking cookies with my grandma and, baking cookies with my mom. And like, that's something that I do right now, with my kids. And like, I started that years ago, and even now they're like looking forward to like, when we gonna do this, and they still hit me with that list, but they're still more concerned about the activities and things that we do together versus the things that they're getting. So I totally agree with everything that you hit us with. All right. keep things moving forward, I'm gonna slide on over to Louisville, Kentucky, to Miss Deshara C. Dobb and let her take the floor and do her thing.
For sure. And just like Dr. Jenkins said, we're going to be bouncing off each other for sure this evening. So one of the things that kept replaying to me as you all was talking is in our mental health world, we call it positive reframe, right? So we all know that we have a whole lot of negative that we can say around what has gone on in 2020. I think we could have a continuous list of negative, right? But I think around the holiday season, it's always important to kind of go back to the basics and really go back to the simpler times and really evaluate like what are some gratitudes that you have. Everybody has not had immense struggle this year, you know, and I definitely agree with you. There's been so many people that have been grieving the loss of not only, you know, the loved ones that they have lost, but also what they wanted their life to be at this point in time. I don't know about you all, but I wanted a vacation. I wanted definitely work to be a lot easier, but things have definitely shifted. And so I think it's really important this holiday season to really go back to the things that it was prior to social media, prior to us really having such a value on the dollar or a value on really getting that PS5 or whatever other trendy thing that is going on, like really just honing in on what are the important things, what are the things that are long lasting. So one of the things that I really thought about this year as well is really, and I think that it was echoed with some of the other professionals, is really going back to the things that mattered the most to you before. So if there was some traditions that grandma had, or some traditions that maybe some of the elders had in your community, whether it was, you know, pulling out that old recipe book that maybe you haven't seen in a long time and retrying that sweet potato pie, or, you know, that German chocolate cake or whatever that was, and really even getting the kids involved. I think that that's something that's amazing. Another thing that could be very fun for people, because of course, everybody has some type of restrictions, right? We just heard the CDC saying, you know, they're recommending for people not to travel. So that's definitely putting a pin in a lot of people's plans. But I think it's really cool to maybe even make competition out of it, you know, find the recipes that maybe people think that they're good at and being able to maybe recreate those and have people to try that. Again, positive reframe is something that's going to be so important this holiday season, because it's not over yet. 2020 isn't over. And between next week of Thanksgiving and the end of the year, there could be so many other things that can occur. But I think the things that are really, really important is just going back to those very basic things. One of the things that I didn't even consider is the fact that a lot of families don't even sit at dinner tables anymore together and eat. You know, a lot of people, like, you know, they get their plate, they go in the living room, sit on the floor, they go to their room, you know, everybody's kind of spread out. But like going back to those traditions where people are sitting down together, everybody has their technology away and really talking to each other and having conversation. A lot of social engagement are things that people are completely missing in 2020. Since I think March the 12th, March the 13th, I can't even remember at this point when everything got shut down. A lot of people are not having that connection with people. And so just having that technology being put away and having the ability to have authentic and genuine conversation with people, and really, again, highlighting the gratitude that we have. What are the things that we're looking forward to? Even if you can't find positive around 2020, what are you hoping for 2021? You know, I know that all of us want COVID to end, right? So at least we can think about, like, when COVID ends, what is that vacation we want to go on? What's the first place you want to eat at that you've been craving like all these months, right? So I think it's really important to, if we can't, try to think of some positives, because of course all of us are going through different things, right? Different struggles. I think it could be something that's really important to, again, think about the future. What are things that we're hoping for? What is that, you know, opportunity that we're looking forward to in 2021? And one of the things is, you know, we're talking a lot about children, and I really love the quote about out the mouth of babes come words of wisdom. And so I think that it's really important to really ask your kids, like, what would you like to do this year? Because many adults, we can really stick in the negative. We can really stick in the things that are not going right, or, you know, our finances are not where we want it to be. but a lot of times kids can come up with some of the most brilliant, refreshing ideas, and really implementing it this holiday season is something that will be really important. So just some things to consider, just making sure that you're thinking of gratitude, gratefulness, and hopefulness for the next year.
Speaking of grateful, I just want to throw this out there. I don't know if I've told y'all, but I am extremely grateful for each and every one of y'all for helping me with what I'm trying to do to helping Black men no chaser, really build this thing out. Mental health is very important to me, and it's something that's been neglected in the Black community for far too long. And again, I'm just thankful for each one of y'all who feel the same way and are taking time out of y'all busy schedules and lives and amid everything that's going on to help push this narrative forward that it's okay to get help. It's okay to take a mental break. It's okay to see a therapist and see a doctor, talk to somebody. It's not okay to just call somebody crazy and just ignore them, or the stigma that's associated with mental health, mental illness. It's okay to knock those barriers down and get rid of them. So again, I thank each one of y'all for really doing this, and I'm looking forward to 2021 and blowing this thing up with y'all. So thank you. I'm gonna slide on over to Brother Jared, the resident male of the group, who's always got some jewels for me every time we talk. So I'm gonna just ease back and let you take the floor and do your thing, man.
Cool. Man, where do I start after hearing all of the great things that everybody has said already? Honestly, I think the first thing that really is coming into my mind is that being in Atlanta, if you've been paying attention to like social media and like the news, like Atlanta hasn't really shut down too much. We still kind of turned up a little bit, but outside of that, I think some things or some tips that can help with managing mental health during the holidays. The first thing I want to say is definitely continuing like your mental health regimen, right? So if you already are in therapy, if you're already like seeing a psychiatrist or life coach, anything like that, just continuing that through the holidays, because the holidays can be stressful, right? Even outside of COVID, the holidays just can be stressful from a financial standpoint, from a family standpoint, and just be stressful in many ways. So definitely continuing your mental health regimen, but also connection. I do want to say that some of the things I might be repeating from other people, but this is just some of the things that I thought. But connection, I think connection is very important, especially during these times. We're talking about living through a pandemic where we're being forced to wear masks and social distance from each other, right? I did a not a panel, but like a talk, I guess you could say, at a church about managing mental health through the pandemic and things of that nature. And people were really concerned about, not being able to actually touch and feel and hug and kiss their loved ones and things of that nature. And it kind of caught me off guard at first, because I was like, man, I never really thought about that from, believe it or not, right? But I think that connection piece is extremely important, because although we can't physically touch, right? We can, if we have iPhones, or even if you have the Droid, with technology now, we can FaceTime, we can Google Duo, we can still have that connection, even though we cannot physically be with that person. So definitely during the holidays, making sure that we're staying in touch, staying connected with our loved ones, with our friends, our families, and things of that nature, so that we can still feel that sense of love, that sense of connection, and things of that nature. But also another point I wanted to bring up is reflection, right? Usually the end of the year is a time of reflection. And although this year has been extremely crazy or extremely just troubling in so many ways, there's still some things that we can, as said on here, we can be grateful for, right? We could be grateful for the fact that, we're still here, we're still breathing, right? Some of us can be grateful for that we may still have employment, that we still have our family, that we still, are in a mental state, trying. So when we're reflecting, even though the year has been difficult, we can still find some of those some of those things that we can be grateful for, some of the things that we can be happy about, right? And so I think that's extremely important, and utilizing that reflection and then adding to it on thinking about how we can improve the next year with or without COVID. I think that could be helpful. And the last point I want to bring up is developing some type of normalcy in the midst of this pandemic. Yeah, some of us are working from home. Some of us have been home since March, right? Some of us are social distancing when we're out. Some of us are wearing masks. Some, just following the protocols and things of that nature. Some of us have lost family members, friends, and all of that stuff. But what can help, or what can kind of keep us grounded, is really trying to develop that sense of normalcy again, and what that looks like, right? So, you can even create, I'm not gonna say that you can, but yeah, just kind of just really developing that sense of normalcy in some type of way. It doesn't have to look exactly how it looked pre-COVID, but it can still look, somewhat reminiscent of what you're used to. So those are my points, and yeah, that's what I have to say.
Can I piggyback on your sense of normalcy? I think it's really important that we really do work toward those things. And I think it's important when we get on here that we give people tangible ideas of how you can do that. Dashira talked about pulling out that cookbook and revamping the recipe or having a competition. This is how you do this. You get on Zoom, everybody decides we're going to make X, Y, and Z. You make it the day before. Today, we take little samples to everybody's house and leave on the porch. We meet on Zoom at a specific time, and everybody's tasting everybody's food, and you get to talk about what those, recipes remind you of, and how that takes you back to your childhood, or who had the best, pecan pie. When it comes to children, it's something as simple as going to Dollar Tree and finding those cute Thanksgiving and Christmas, paint by number ornaments. Children need to see each other. If they're not in school, being able to do an activity together and, talk about it, with each other is a big deal. So, Zoom is an amazing piece of technology. I was using it way before, the pandemic, but the fact that we have the ability to get online and see each other, if this had happened 40 years ago, people just would have been isolated with no ability to, to make these types of connections that we're still able to make today. So I think it's important for us to kind of think outside of the box when you're trying to create a sense of normalcy. If you haven't seen your girlfriends in a while, say, look, we're going to have a makeup artist get on and teach us how to do the smoky eye, whatever it is, get on there, do something to decompress. Self-care is very important. And if you're not engaging in self-care and, making sure, as Jared said, making those connections and getting back to a sense of normalcy, we will fall victim to this. The last thing that I think I'll say, I got from someone else, and Tyrus, please help me remember her name. She has the Black Girl Therapy cards.
That's Dr. Ebony.
Yes, Dr. Ebony. Dr. Ebony said something, and it hit
Shout
me
out
like
to Dr. Ebony.
Shout out to Dr. Ebony and those cards. Dr. Ebony said something, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. She said, everything is not a diagnosable condition. It's not. Okay, everything is not a diagnosable condition, but that does not mean that you don't go through things in your life that you need some support getting through. And that's where we are right now. You may not be in a state of perpetual depression. You may not have, a severe case of anxiety, but you are feeling it and you are going through right now. You need some support right now. So I think as Black people, we need to understand that just because you need support does not make you crazy. That does not make you, a basket case or a mental case. And once we get to the point where we understand that we don't have to be super women and the strong Black man is a myth, we will be able to seek the help, get the help that we need, the support that we need to make it through these, these situations that we find ourselves in, and we'll be better for it on the other end.
It's funny because even just that, the fact that everything is situational, what's going on right now, it's not always going to be that way. And so I think it is important, exactly what you just said, realizing that this is just for a time. It's just for a season, and realizing that, like you mentioned, on the other side, you can even have like a different thought process about what's going on right now. You could have a sense of reflection and gratitude that you probably didn't have. And maybe, unfortunately, it took for this to happen to really realize the things that you cherish, the things that meant the most to you. So that's absolutely, I will echo the same.
I wanted to follow up too on when you mentioned about the strong Black woman and the strong Black man myth. I think that's extremely important to talk about because in the Black community, it's like taboo to be vulnerable, and it's like mind-boggling to me. But maybe because I'm a therapist, right? Maybe that's why it's mind-boggling to me.
That's probably.
But time and time and again, I hear people say, I gotta be strong, or I gotta be this for my family, or, this and that. I did another event where a kid said, my dad told me not to show any emotion. And I'm like, what? I'm like, emotions are natural. Like, you have them. You can't even turn them off if you wanted to, but anyway, back to the vulnerability piece. I think that we as a community think that it's like an either or. You're either resilient or you're not, right? You can be resilient and you can be vulnerable at the same time. You can be strong for your family and cry while you're doing it. You can be strong around your friends or resilient around your friends and still have that moment where you're expressing, showing, vocalizing emotions. So I think one of the biggest things in my work that I try to do is really explain and get people to understand, especially people in our community, the importance of vulnerability, especially during this time. We are going through COVID, and people have passed away in families. And you can't just sit there and say, well, I have to be strong for my family because my family needs me. It's counterproductive. If you're suppressing those emotions and not getting them out and not releasing them and things of that nature, you're actually doing more damage to yourself than you're good for your family. So if anybody that's watching this, if you don't hear anything else, please understand that there's power in vulnerability, and it's extremely important that we practice vulnerability in our daily lives so that you be healthy.
I think I'm gonna and this will be it, Tyrus, I promise. But I think I'll add to what Jared just said in regards to us trying to be strong and that sort of thing. And I think within that, let's also remember that we can support each other at those times when we know we have friends or even neighbors or people who are going through different things. This is the season. Send those Christmas cards. Let's it's not just the technology stuff, but let's get back to the stuff that, we used to do that maybe we don't think about, anymore. That will give us some some sense of giving, you know, on our end when we're sending those things out, and it'll make those people feel really good when they're getting those things. You know, that's a way to unify and to really support one another, even though we can't be with each other face to face. You know, take those selfies, get them printed up, you know, send out those Christmas cards, you know, give each other a call when you receive it. You know, it can make a person really feel good. It can make you really feel good to be able to do those things. And then it can make another person feel good to really receive those things. So let's just kind of keep in mind tips like that don't have to be overly, you know, extra or, you know, won't cost a whole lot of money, but will still kind of yield the same result in terms of support and connection and those types of things.
I just wanted to add one thing, Tyrus. Last thing, seriously. So we've all kind of talked about how it's so important to reach out to family and friends and how we can still have that social gathering without it being there. But I also want to point out that it's important to be intentional about your self-care. So a lot of people are not doing their self-care because they're tired of being by themselves. They're tired of being in the house. They're tired of being alone and being lonely. But we have to remember that self-care is not just sitting alone by yourself watching TV. It's not just moving around and doing the regular things you do in your house. It's actually caring for yourself. So you still want to set aside time, even if it's 15 minutes, to, you know, check in with yourself at the end of the day. How am I feeling? How did today go? Is there something that I didn't do today? Maybe I didn't reach out to family today. Okay, so I'll put that on my to-do list for tomorrow. If you're not going to nail salons, because we haven't really shut down in Alabama either, so they're open. But if you are not going to nail salons or getting your hair done and things like that, you know, pull up YouTube, set aside some time after working from home Monday through Friday, maybe on Saturday, and try a new hairstyle. Try and figure out how to do acrylic tips on your nails. You know, sit down and journal, write, listen to some music that you enjoy, and reflect on your day. So self-care is still very important during this time. You want to be intentional about it, in addition to reaching out to those that you love and care about.
First of all, I'm gonna need y'all to stop acting like I'm Ike Turner in the studio with y'all now. Y'all got me out here looking bad now. People messaging me, what you doing to these people?
You run a tight ship, that's all.
But I kind of
want to. I'm looking at the name. If somebody push unmute one more time.
I'm glad that y'all like free flowing and free willing with information, because I mean, the more you guys talk about it, the more people learn and can get better and do better. So I'm all for it. I just wanted to point to something Jerry said earlier when he said that he had a talk at a church. I think that is like super huge in my opinion, because, you know, church folks, the one thing they say for everything, I don't care if it's mental health, physical health, whatever, we just gonna pray it away. And to have him actually, you know, physically come into the sanctuary and actually talk about mental health and ways to help with mental health, you know, kind of shows that people are really more in tune to what's going on and are more receptive of you know, getting mental health. So, you know, that was real refreshing to hear, because like I remember our first talk, we talked about the church and how people from the church don't deal with it in that way of getting help and just say we gonna pray it away. So that was real refreshing to hear. Anybody got a closing statement they want to make, or y'all are good, or do I have to get physical up in here?
We're gonna let you do it.
No, I did have something to add, and I think it goes back to like that resourcefulness. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that you can't do this by yourself. I think a lot of people are so accustomed to, again, that whole idea of being strong, being independent. I can do it by myself. A lot of people have been doing it by themselves like for almost 9 months now, right? So I think that it's really important for like every system, right? Whether you are a a local nonprofit, all the way up to hospital, you know, even just within your family, education, whatever. Like, use your resources within the community. Like, this has to be collective. It has to be cooperative. And I think that it's really important, like those ideas around Kwanzaa. Like, if you don't know what Kwanzaa is, look it up. Make it a part of your tradition this year, because I think that all the things that we have started to see within 2020 definitely goes back to like those traditional roots that a lot of us have forgotten about, again, because of that ideal of being strong and independent. So definitely using your resources and realizing that, you know, this isn't the time to be isolated. This isn't a time of being alone, but definitely reaching out. And again, like those non-traditional sectors, like, you know, if you are within a religious background, yes, absolutely, like be prayerful, you know, seek something in the future that's positive, but at the same time, recognizing that there is no room to be by yourself, and that faith without works is dead, essentially. So that's all I had to say. Tyrus, back to you.
Yeah. But before we get out of here, again, I just want to thank each and every person on the panel: Adrian, Afia, Calibri, Deshara, Jared. I want to thank each one of you guys for doing this repeatedly, and I really look forward to, you know, building on what we're doing going into 2021. And to everybody who's watching, I hope that you all have taken the information that was presented to heart, and use it, you know, to your benefit, because that's what we're here for. We're here to, you know, reach out. We're here to help. We're here to, you know, inform everybody of different ways to not only better themselves, but better the people around them. So I hope everybody, you know, really, you know, gain something from this talk tonight. Finally, I just want to say, you know, going into the holidays, like we talked about earlier, you know, do what you can, and you know, just leave it there. Don't stress yourself out. Don't kill yourself over it. Don't, you know, go around in anguish and in pain because of something you couldn't do. We're only doing what we're capable of doing, and that's pretty much it. And you know, something Jerry said really stuck in my head, and I hope, you know, everybody heard it. You know, there is power in vulnerability. So, like I said, he always drops up. You know, every time I talk to him, I come away with something. So, again, everybody who's watching, please continue to follow us, share, you know, these types of videos, share this video, like this video, you know, reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, concerns. We're here, and we're going to continue to be here, and we look forward to continuing the work that we're doing. So on behalf of Ms. Adrian Marshall, on behalf of Ms. Afia K, on behalf of Dr. Calibri, on behalf of Deshara and Vision of Promise, on behalf of Mr. Jared Washington, on behalf of myself and Black with No Chaser, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.